What's going on, everybody? It is episode 46 here at Truth Will Set You Free. It's going to be a big week because we are talking about the man, the myth, the legend himself. We went from number 45, the Trump train, over to number 46, riding with Biden. That's what we're doing for episode 46, dedicating part of the show to Mr. Joe Biden himself and the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we did bring one Democrat-ish liberal on the show. We call him Liberal J. He hates the name, but you know what? He's going to have to learn to deal with it because he's the only liberal that is willing to ever come play with us here in this sandbox. So we're going to get started in just about a minute, start to share this out there. There's our political discussion show. We're going to talk about Biden. We're going to talk about more than just that, though. We've got a lot going on in the world of Major League Baseball, talking about the Atlanta All-Star game moving to Denver, Colorado. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the Chauvin trial. And, of course, 60 Minutes, a.k.a. mainstream media, butchering the DeSantis interview regarding that $100,000 in public. So go ahead and share it out there. It's time for Truth Will Set You Free, episode number 46. Riding with Biden. What's going on, everybody? It is Anthony Russo from BetheChange. We have got a great show. We've got Casey, we got Liberal J, and of course, Suni, the middle child, on this episode. I see you guys in the comment box. Start making comments, start hitting the like button, start doing all the things that you do to spread the love for this show. We're going to introduce our guests. We're going to talk about what's going on in the world. You know that this is up on Primetime Patriots. It's on BetheChange, Facebook, as well as YouTube. So let's bring up one of our Primetime Patriots on this show. Suni, what's crack-a-lackin'? How you doing?
What is happening? Ready to get this show started, man. Some crazy stuff we got to talk about.
Oh, because you're excited about riding with Biden. You're ready to talk about it.
Yes. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to give Biden his props today, okay? Halfway, and I'm going to tell you why.
Are we saving that for later?
Yep.
Okay, got it. All right. She's a fluffer just like Saki. All right. We got Casey. Casey, everybody's favorite libertarian. What's going on? We have like the whole spectrum on this episode. This is good.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, you're setting up for a joke I shouldn't say right now. That's for Conservengers. Anyways, so I fell up the stairs today. Cool. That's what we'll talk about.
Too bad you didn't fall up the stairs when you were voting third party. And we've got Liberal J in the house.
Can we talk about how stupid riding with Biden and Trump train are? Like, can we? They're all so stupid.
We can agree.
It's been a while, by the way, since you guys got to see Jay. So some of you might not know who he is. Jay is our liberal friend. He never leaves angry. He never has a discussion out of emotion. He literally brings the facts that he is comfortable with, and he talks about them. And sometimes he's even on our side. He is a great guest to have. He provides a great counterpoint. And the one thing I always ask, don't be mean to Jay in the box. If you have a disagreement, explain it. But be the change you wish to see by being kind. How about that? But Jay can take it a little bit better than some of our other guests have because Jay's got some stones, which makes me wonder why he's a liberal. Anyways.
Can we still call him Liberal J, though? I still want to.
Yeah.
I'm a registered independent, you assholes.
What did Casey, was that you that was on the Be the Change that commented, called him Laker J? I was
yes.
Like, okay. Yeah, that makes
sense. Way worse. As a Celtics fan, way worse.
So,
how do you feel about Paul Pierce? You know, you're a Celtics fan.
I'd love to talk to you about that offline. I think it's.
I don't know, but Tampa Bay did a bang-up job with your boy this year. I just got to say that.
All right, you told everyone not to be mean to me, and now you're being an asshole.
All right, real quick, guys, something new to announce. We've been taking a while. I've been talking to Cash. Cash is actually doing really well. He wanted me to start this up because we are in the place finally where we know there is going to be a need for legal counsel, etc. We still don't know who his court-appointed lawyer is in Indiana, but it is that time. And I looked up all the requirements, and we are allowed to have a GoFundMe. So Cash actually had me do this. It's very easy to find. If you click on it, it's in the box. You can't click on the screen right now, but it is bit.ly/KLK, like MLK, but Cash Lee Kelly. Cool. GFM, that's the GoFundMe. Easy to find that way. We'll also be putting it up on all of the pages, including I'll be sharing it with Erica later today as well tonight. So now you know, if you guys want, this is the place to go. This is the only GoFundMe that's actually associated with Cash in any way, shape, or form. And by the way, he's got a new mission, and I'm going to put it on the Patreon for people, which I'll put on the bottom, but I will actually read the message on there. He wants to become a pastor now, I think. It sounds like he's being drawn closer and closer to the Lord. So Jay and him will have some very interesting theological questions and shows together, I'm sure. But he's doing really well this week is the best I could tell you. If you would like to support us in any way, shape, or form, Venmo, Cash App, cool. But I would, of course, prefer Patreon because you get a little extra. You get Motivational Mondays, patreon.com/BetheChange USA. I believe as though that's all of the housekeeping that I have. All of these shows are now available on what's it called? What are those shows? Podcasts. So if you shut up. If you want, I'm going to go ahead and throw the podcast link up there. It's just #BetheChange.com/podcast. There you are. And you can find Suni's Make America Think Again, which her show last night was fire, and that will be up hopefully in the next day or two once she gives me that one. All of her shows are up. Again, easy to find, #BetheChange.com/podcast. And you can find all of our shows. Emily Robbins' show, which is Questions Unraveled, Truth Will Set You Free, Concert Vengers, Change Makers, and Matta, soon to include Blake's show as well. Blake not here, but he is blowing up on TikTok, however. Good for him. That's all I got for that. Anyways, all right. What do we want to lead in with, guys? We kind of talked about a bunch of different things. Do we want to lead in with riding with Biden, Jay? Or do you want to talk some topics? Let's start with topics. Is that good? All right, let's lead in with Chauvin. Let's lead in with the Chauvin trial. I know that Suni's been paying attention, Jay's been paying attention, Kay's been paying attention. I've been getting nightly recaps because it's just like beating a dead horse at this point. But what is Jay? What's your opinion on the options and what's going to happen with that case?
Well, I think first of all, I don't think anything's really surprising has happened in the trial. I don't think anything has been said that would change anybody's opinion. I think that I think the majority of Americans think that something wrong happened, regardless of George Floyd's past. Obviously, he was killed, whether that's first degree murder, whether it's manslaughter, whether it's whatever. I think everybody probably feels the same way they did before the trial started, the day after the incident happened, etc. I think that it's important for all of us, and this will probably come up later when we talk about MLB too. I think the issue is it's important to separate the issue from the reaction, right? And this is like a media problem. So it's easy to look at, people posting crazy things. If Chauvin gets off, we're going to burn down cities and shit like that. That's like sort of this issue. The trial is this issue. You know what I mean? So at least for me, I want to at least keep those things separated. Again, I don't really have too many thoughts. I mean, to me, it seems like a pretty cut and dry manslaughter. I don't think there was any premeditation. I don't think there was anything like that. I think the man deserves to go to jail because he committed a fucking heinous crime. And that's kind of the end of the story. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of it. And that's the way I felt the day after it happened. It's the way I feel now. I don't think anything in the trial is going to happen that's going to change my mind.
And Jay, I think you were on a couple of the shows soon after, like when we started learning more details. And I think people are still ignoring a lot of things. And I am in a full agreement with you that there needs to be. And I was very happy to see something I did not know last week, which was the in terms of Derek Chauvin and the drugs and the actual. I literally totally lost my train of thought. I don't know why. Never mind. Anyways, I don't know. That never happens. Casey, go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to call you Joe Biden, but
wow,
yes.
I feel like Joe Biden right now.
When it comes to the trial, the only thing I learned is the cops actually checked his pulse before they got off of him, like 3 minutes prior, and it was around the 6 minute mark, which I'm like, whoa, I didn't know this. Even though it was already released, it was in the body cam. I didn't catch it, and so it's interesting. So. Do I believe the cops need to be held accountable? Absolutely, in that regard, because you're still kneeling on a man for 3 minutes, doesn't have a pulse, and you're not trying to resuscitate in any way. There's a problem there. That's it.
100%. And that was a big thing. Sorry, I remember what I was going to say. I did not know manslaughter was an option in the very beginning. And that was something big. I was like, this is so ignorant for them to be going for only murder because they would not be able to downgrade. The fact that manslaughter is on the table is big. Unfortunately, I don't think it'll change the outcome in terms of what will happen if he gets manslaughter, which is the only thing I foresee him being able to get. I don't know. Suni, what are your thoughts?
Be prepared for your cities to burn because he's not getting charged with murder. If they wanted to really charge him and if they really wanted justice, they would have went for the charge that was going to lock him up. Like, that shit's it. I don't think he should have a job. I think he's a piece of crap cop. I think the police department that he was working for completely ignored that he had several different complaints against him. Several. I mean, this is just like Jay said, this is clear cut. He's a crap cop. And it's unfortunate that George Floyd died, but he was not murdered. And it doesn't take away from his death saying that. This is something else I learned today. They don't want the lawyer for George Floyd, they don't want the dealer to testify on his behalf because it could incriminate him in the murder of George Floyd itself. Because he was high he was high as a kite. He had meth. What else did he have?
Fentanyl, meth, caffeine,
alcohol,
THC,
weed, morphine.
And are they proving, out of curiosity, because I have not watched the whole thing, are they proving that when they have the picture of that bag, was he swallowing a bag of drugs? Is that what they proved, why there was such a high level? Have they said anything about that?
No. The medical examiner barely mentioned it. The medical examiner made it clear that it was asphyxiation from having the neck on his throat, on his neck, whatever. So I think everything else is just fluff, right? None of it really matters.
So why is it that medical examiner is saying it's the asphyxiation?
Yeah.
Why, when there is lethal levels, and we talked about this last week as well, there are lethal levels of drugs in his system, and he died technically, I thought it was of pulmonary, it was a heart attack of some kind mixed with the asphyxiation because it all came together. Why are they just focusing on the asphyxiation and not the drugs?
I mean, I think that's a question for the medical. I don't think any of us can answer that question. It's the medical examiner. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they're fixating on it. I think that's just the medical examiner's determination. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's anything to read it. Look, you can read into it, but in my opinion, there's nothing to read into it there. I'm not gonna question any political motivations or anything like that of a medical examiner. I can't get there. You know what I mean?
Right. I'm not there either.
Yeah.
There's 3 different autopsy reports, and all of them say something different. Like, all of them. The first one said he died of a heart attack. The second one was asphyxiation. I can't remember what the third one was, but they're all saying something different. Here's what it is. He was high as crap. Derek Chauvin and the rest of those cops contributed to his death, which is why they should be charged with manslaughter, period, point blank. They contributed. But it wasn't just them alone. It was not Derek Chauvin alone. And he's a piece of shit.
Well, my big thing is, if you were to watch all the body cam footage that was released, and you watch it all, and you see how he was reacting from the first second, he clearly was not in a mental state to be able to go through anything that he went through. He was saying he couldn't breathe when he was just thrown in the SUV because he wouldn't listen in the first place. He was saying he couldn't breathe before anything happened. He was already having health issues. And that's what's interesting. But again, like I mentioned earlier, is the officers, I still think they sensed something was wrong around 6 minutes of kneeling on him, and they didn't do anything about it. That is the worst thing I see coming out of it.
It's crazy it took them 6 minutes to send something.
Yeah, that was too long.
Like, that's,
They should have never been on him. Look, once you saw that he was chilling out, you should have got off of him, picked him up, put him back in the car.
Yep.
Right.
That would be you doing your job. But none of them did their job that day.
Agreed. And some people, however, because of course I pay attention to my favorite page, the Occupy Democrats, and they talk about things like why didn't they force him to stay in the car? They were talking about him being in the back seat, and they're like, they should have just driven. It was easy. Why don't they just drive to the? You guys don't understand procedure. So let's play this game. Let's say that he freaks out and dies in the back of that car, and he's been begging to get out, and there's video of him begging to get out. Procedurally, they have to let him out of the back of the vehicle. What they did after that, bad. Of course, and especially the time it took to subdue him, etc. But people not understanding that is part of the problem, and people that are so reactionary off of all the different things. And yes, some people I know in here, and it looked like Tiffany made the comment, stop blaming it on the drugs. Okay, I'm not going to blame it on the drugs, but we got to talk about the drugs. They were in his system at a lethal level. To leave that out of the conversation is ignorant to the whole cause of death. The COD has miraculously changed since July, because in July it was very heavy on the drugs being cause of death. There was no sign of forced anything on his neck. Again, I am not condoning what this police officer did. I want to repeat that over and over and over again. But to stop talking about the drugs is ignorance. That's because people say to me like, okay, Anthony, if I put my knee on your neck, and you could put it on my neck, not just on the shoulder, not whatever. If you put it on my neck for 9 minutes and I'm sober, I'm not going to die. If I'm even hyped up, I'm not going to die.
Well, that's you can't say that. You don't know that. I mean,
I will let you put. I'm saying this. I will let you put your knee on my neck, and it's not an issue. That it's just not the way it works. He did this to a kid. I saw that part of the trial for 18 minutes. He was fine afterwards. He was.
Not die. You might not. You don't know that you wouldn't die though. Like you might.
I would bet my life savings that a healthy person that is, even if they are in a excited state, no drugs involved, 99.99% of the time. So essentially pretend like they've got COVID, which he also had, by the way. And they would live through that. I just can't see. I can't see that being a death move. There was no heavy pressure applied. There was a mixture of 80 million things going on, which again does not lead to murder. It leads to manslaughter, negligence, stupidity, and his background is obviously huge in it. So Tiffany, again, I thought you wanted to come on, but now you're not. Yeah. And Tamika, you are more than welcome to come on if she's commenting, wanting to come on. And okay, his airway wasn't constricted. That is one thing they have not said. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, they haven't mentioned it at all in the court cases because it wasn't constricted.
It takes less than 6 minutes for your airway to be restricted for you to die.
Restricted.
That's restricted. About semantics. I think there's a semantics problem here, and I'm not saying we're having this problem on the show. I'm saying that a problem with it. I even see it in one of the comments there. I don't know who made it, the one that you put up on the screen, Anthony. I think that we have an issue here, and we're talking about manslaughter versus murder and stuff like that. You know, colloquially, day to day, when someone kills someone, we say they murdered them. Right. Yeah. Like that's just what I'm assuming all four of us say that. I know I would say that, like, oh, he was murdered. It's not the same thing as the same thing in a courtroom or anything like that. Maybe not. Maybe you don't. But colloquially, I would say a vast majority of people would say that. Just use that word. You don't go, oh, he manslaughtered him. You know what I mean? Like, people don't talk like that. Right. So I just think that it's important for people to understand the semantics there. And I think it's probably confusing some people who might be angry. Not everybody. Some people are probably pushing for some sort of murder, first-degree murder, second-degree murder charge, but I'm sure some people might be confused by the semantics.
Well, but it doesn't matter. First-degree, second-degree, or third-degree murder, how do you, if you read the definition of them, this is a struggle or a fight to try to fit in that category.
But he's saying, what he's saying is most people aren't having these like really intelligent, in-depth conversations about what these charges bring. So when they say, yo, he was murdered and you're saying he's not murdered, nobody here is saying Derek Chauvin is innocent. Everybody here thinks he's a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. But when you're talking about charges from a law standpoint, he will not be charged with murder. He will be charged with manslaughter. And they better hope they get him on that, because right now they're playing around with these charges.
Because of the point I brought up, I really think they will be charged with something. But you're going to see riots. You're going to see it. It's going to happen because everybody is expecting murder. And this is not murder because it is their training. It is how they were taught to do things. And they followed the directions. Now that is changed. But at that time, it was a process that they were taught. And so it is something that they will be excused from. I'm not saying it's okay. I don't like it. I think it's weird. I also don't like the way Chauvin, if you look at his arm, he pushes down with his arm in his pocket to put more force.
Yeah.
But that could be part of the training. So what do? You can't justify charging murder. We have to be logical with what he would get charged is probably something in a lesser sentence, and people are going to get upset.
Maybe.
That's what's going to happen.
Maybe.
Tamika, I have sent you the link to the show. I found you on Facebook, so look in your chat box if you'd like. And Tiffany, I see what you are saying. And again, you have the link to the show. You are both welcome to come on, and we are going to be talking about Biden shortly. The last thing I will say is this is what's going on, and this is not one of the only posts. And it also shows what's happening on social media and the inability for them to police the left or police the Black Lives Matter violence. This has been circulating on Twitter today, call to murder children if Chauvin is found guilty, and it stayed up for hours. Hours. If Chauvin walks, it's time we start capping white sons and daughters. It could be a joke all you like, but that's...
I want to say something. And this will be my final words on it. Like I said before, we all feel pretty outraged about how Derek Chauvin behaved that day. Everybody, I cried when I watched George Floyd, and I don't cry. It really hurt me to see somebody in distress like that, because at the end of the day, he's human.
Yep.
We're all people. He was obviously struggling with addiction. He was struggling with whatever. Nobody's saying he deserved to die. But I see Mexicans, I see white people, and I've seen Asians die this exact same way under police supervision. I've watched several videos where men unarmed, and they're not black, they're white, like straight up murdered on camera, and these cops got off, no charge. I have watched ignorant black cops jack up other black people, and we don't see any outrage. We don't have these extravagant public trials, public opinion. Everybody got something to say about it. This specific case is here to drive a wedge and divide us. You would be shocked how many people you see, white, Asian, whatever, die in police custody, and they never see the light of day. Those stories never get heard. So this is not a black and a white issue. There are some good white people and there's some good black people in America. We don't have a race issue. Like, we don't, bro. And I'm not going to sit here and allow people to keep pushing this narrative. The next time a white person dies the exact same way George Floyd did, you better have something to say about it.
Which I brought up on your show last night when you were talking, or I think it was last night. There was a gentleman that died. He was mentally challenged in Dallas. He was a white guy. It has the exact same body cam. Happened 2 months before George Floyd. We didn't hear anything about it. Now that proves that there's shitty cops. We know this.
Yes.
We also know that the predominants are incredibly good. But when you're only showing shit like that, not only do you show the shitty cops, you're also making them racist, which is the problem. And I always circle back. I always circle back to the show. What's that Tuesday show that I always like? The whatever something about whatever the one on NBC. I don't know. With Randall, the black set of the triplets, the adopted kid. When he talked about it, it hit home to me. This is us. Thank you. It hit home to me because he didn't say I was sick of policemen killing black people. He was sick of seeing it. He was exhausted from seeing it. And that was the first time I understood it, because whether I think statistically the way that it's showed is bullshit or not, when you are constantly seeing people of your own race as a minority constantly killed because that's all the media gives a baker's about, it is exhausting, no matter what side of the coin you're on, no matter if you're a conservative or if you're a Democrat. It's exhausting because it looks as though black people are being hunted because that's all that's shown. So that false narrative is the most dangerous thing that we have in our country. And that's what's going to cause cities to burn down. That's why you've got BLM leader doing a TikTok video about like they better get him for murder, otherwise we're gonna burn this shit down, and getting away with it because in their minds this only happens to black people, and statistically it's false, and logically it's false.
I actually, you're gonna be shocked. I actually agree with Suni and Anthony, but I have one sort of button though. While I agree with both of your points, that the statistics are the statistics. What it doesn't do, it doesn't mean that we don't have a race problem in America or that some cops aren't racists. It just means that that's not the whole story or the only story. You know what I mean? We can't just dismiss it out of hand entirely, even though I agree with both of your points. Like there's certainly racist cops out there, but to your point, it's to both of your points, it's the only story that we see, which doesn't really fucking help anybody. But
right.
I just challenge both of you to think about whether there is still a race problem in America. It's just not a race problem that the media shows us.
There is a minuscule race problem amongst individuals, but the collective, I've met too many Americans. I've traveled the world, and I'm pretty sure you guys have too. I've met too many people for that to be true. Especially, I grew up in a predominantly just black, I didn't really have white people around me. And my exposure to white people, I was a defensive one. They never said anything rude to me. I was accepted like everybody else. And every white person since then, every white person I've had an interaction with outside of the ones on the internet, and they tend to be liberal, I have never had an issue. I have never felt any way about being black, and I still don't until I came out as conservative, because that's when the world was like, yo, what's wrong with you? You're stupid. You don't think for yourself. And it's coming from white people. You're a sellout. Like, who do you think you are to say that to me? What am I selling out? So yes, it's a problem, but I think it's an individual thing. That's just me.
Yeah. And Tony Timpa was the kid in Dallas, or the guy in Dallas that got killed. So all right, we're gonna move on. One thing I forgot to mention, and again, this shows that there isn't a racial bias. It just shows that right now we just live in a fucked up world. Yeah. The two girls, the 13-year-old and the 15-year-old, that to me didn't just kill but murdered the Uber Eats driver on their joyride. They have now been, by the prosecution, they've been allowed to, they will not be in jail past the age of 21. They will also never go to a real jail. So that is what they've decided to deal with that case with. And to me, that shows it's bullshit. And it also shows there isn't racial favoritism. Maybe the girl's family had money. I don't know. I don't know if it's socioeconomic in that case, but it shows that there is not racial bias in that country. If there was, those girls should be locked up and whatever for life. So it's just it's frustrating because it's not a race issue in this country. It's a shitty fucking person issue. The other thing I will say, if you're noticing I'm forgetting a lot on this episode, I'm going to say it's because it's the Biden episode. Okay.
Because it's 46.
46. I'm going to do a quick segment before we go over to let's do Major League Baseball next, and then we'll do all about the positivities and the greatness of Biden. For a lot of you guys that watched last week when we had the Capitol Doobie Smoker, pretty excited about this. They wanted to do a drum circle. Let me go ahead and share that. I thought I had that already pulled up, but there is a healing drum circle that I will be posting in the comment box. So it's my mom, Mama Shaman, and Doobie Smoker was excited. It's free for everybody. It is this Sunday night, and I will go ahead and put that up while we are talking. So let's go ahead and talk about Major League Baseball moving to all white Denver, Colorado, and also a state with voter ID laws. Jay, I know you have a lot to say about voter ID laws. Jay, lead it off, buddy.
Well, again, I just want to really quickly say that I think it's important to separate the issues. I think MLB, doing what they did, which I disagree with, by the way, even as a liberal, I don't think that MLB should have pulled the All-Star game. But I don't think MLB pulling the All-Star game is even remotely close to the issue. You know what I mean? The issue is we should be debating the validity or the positives and the negatives of the new voting laws in Georgia, not about whether MLB is pulling the All-Star game or not. It's a stupid fucking move. I don't understand why they did it. It's tone deaf. It's definitely listen, I like wokeness generally. This is wokeness gone wild. They've gone overboard. I fucking hate it. But that doesn't mean just because you hate MLB pulling the All-Star game and thinking it's an overreaction doesn't mean you agree with all the Georgia voting laws. You know what I mean? So I think it's important to distinguish between the two things. Same as the reaction to the trial versus the trial itself. You know what I mean? Like I don't think we can't conflate the two things to start. Do you guys agree with me at least on that?
Well, they put out a statement themselves and said why they were doing it.
I know, and it was stupid.
There's nothing racist about requiring an ID. I need ID to do everything. You need ID to go get help from the state. You need ID to go get a phone. You need IDs to get somewhere. Sometimes in schools, you need ID. You need ID. Saying that that's racist is a slap in my face and every other black person's face because you're implying that we don't know how to go get a fucking ID.
I don't think it's
that's ridiculous.
I don't think it's I actually don't think it's racist. Certainly not in the traditional sense of the word. It's the fact that ID laws, there's study upon study upon study, some of which I'm happy to quote here. There's study upon study upon study that shows more restrictive voter laws disproportionately affect minorities and poor people in America. Period. End of story. I'm not saying it's racist, and I don't think it's racist. I don't think the lawmakers who passed this bill give a shit who they're disenfranchising, other than the fact that it's their opposition. I don't think they would care if they were purple or yellow or green or black or white. That's not the point. The point is they're not their voters. If they have a way to restrict others from voting, they will do it. And I think that's the point here. It's also, everyone is so hung up on the ID portion of this bill. It's not really the problem. There's so much other problematic shit in this bill that really has nothing to do with the ID. The ID is
not the ID. The idea is what is when people keep coming back to what the issue is, the main issue, the biggest issue, the ID, because the other sides, the arguments that you had are flawed, which I would love for you to share. And then I will give a counterpoint because you and I discussed these a little bit offline. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look, the ID is something. I mean, 11% of U.S. citizens don't have proper ID. A GAO study in 2018 said that voter ID laws reduce turnout by 2 to 3 percentage points, which translates into tens of thousands of votes. The Brennan Center for Justice did a study in 2018 that found 25% of African Americans lacked valid ID, which blows my fucking mind. I don't know how that's possible, but that's what the study says. A Caltech MIT study, those two, bastions of liberalism, in 2016 found that minority voters are questioned about their ID in states with ID laws up to 3 times as often as white voters. And here's my favorite part about voter ID, because I believe that we're solving a problem that doesn't actually exist. From 2000 to 2014, nationwide, 31 cases of voter impersonation were found, which is the exact type of fraud that voter ID laws are supposed to stop. 31 cases in 14 years. This is really what we're fucking worried about? Really?
Here's my my counter. Out of that 11%, how many of those people are homeless?
Who knows? I don't know that. It's a great question. Out
of that 25%, how many of those people actually vote? I'm just going to be real with you. People in the hood, in the inner city, ain't voting. They don't give a crap what you got going on. They don't care who's running. That is not what affects them in their day-to-day. So this is the ultimate virtue signal. Oh, it's racist. Fuck out of here. I'm talking about the media or even saying it was disproportionately affecting minorities. You don't give a crap about those minorities anyway.
So why didn't some of the Democrats, and I think I said this on your post, Jay, on your comments, why don't they create a program to help them get IDs? And again, I at first when I did the research, it's $32 in the state of Georgia to get an identification card, which I was like, that's a little steep for somebody that's homeless, that if they really want to vote. And then I found out all you have to do is prove that you are you some way or another, and you can get a free voter ID card in the state of Georgia. So it does take one extra step, a step that all of us current voters have had to take in our life to go get some kind of ID. It takes a little bit of effort. And if that disenfranchises a minority community, maybe we need to look at why that's disenfranchising the minority community. As I said on the last episode of Conservengers, if you can't figure out how to prove that you are you have much bigger problems than going to the voting booth and voting. I mean, there's a whole bunch of shit in the next year and a half you might want to deal with.
again, though, it's to me, it's a red herring. The ID isn't really the problem with the law. I mean, yes.
So what is? What were the?
There's lots of things wrong with this fucking bill. Lots and lots and lots of things. And honestly, I think it's naive. Again, and I want to be very clear. I don't think it's racist. I don't think the people who passed this bill give a shit who they're trying to make voting harder for, as long as they're not their constituents. I don't think they care what race these people are. They really don't. There's plenty of white liberals in Georgia too. You know what I mean? Like, they don't care what color these people are. So they cut the period in half from 6 months to 3 months that a voter can request an absentee ballot. I literally can't wrap my head around how that would cut down on fraud whatsoever. There's no more automatically mailing of absentee. So there's a bunch of these rules. Let's say we all get on board with the ID. Okay, let's just say, for the sake of argument, everyone's cool with getting an ID. None of the other rules make fucking sense if you need an ID to vote. None of them make sense.
Go ahead.
Mail-in ballots have to contain a valid ID number. No problem, but then why are they cutting down the time you can get a mail-in ballot? If now we've secured them with IDs, why are they cutting down the time? No more automatically mailing absentee/mail-in ballots. Why? If you have the fucking ID, what difference does it make? They cut the number of drop boxes of mail-in ballots from 94 to 23. Why? Everyone has to have an ID.
I gotta go back to what was the one before? The one you said right before that?
No more automatically mailing absentee ballots.
So here's the deal. ID cards can also be generated. So in terms of taking already set IDs, you can still farm ballots that way. You can still do massive fraud by just automatically taking numbers and shipping them with an auto. You can go to a nursing home and farm. You can go a ballot harvest. You can go to inner city. You can go to homeless that have IDs and harvest those. You can harvest based on zip codes. And also, there's a lot of times where there's duplicate votes thrown out. So they could just do a mass group of people, harvest those. And if a few are thrown out, cool. It is what it is. It happens. So that's why the automatic isn't. Now, dropping the ballot boxes is very interesting. Part of that was because there was no oversight on some of those locations. I do agree that it was a little bit extreme in number on how they cut, but they were strategic on the ones that were used, and the ones that aren't is what they are saying. To me, not a huge deal, because they're already cutting down they're extending the mail-in date beforehand. They're extending the early voting date beforehand to try to get people to vote in person. They are discouraging mail-in voting for the just sake of mail-in voting, which I think is something that people didn't have voter confidence over in the last election. So they're shrinking that number. But go ahead, Jay.
Kind of, but they countered the early voting. If you're talking about early voting, they cut the hours. So they extended it. Now it's only during business hours. So
no, they didn't. That is not in that bill.
Yes, it is.
That's not true. I read through it. They did not cut hours. They made it earlier. People can go earlier.
I'm positive. It's only during business hours.
People can go earlier.
In what counties?
In the entire state of Georgia. So they extended the period of time you can early vote, but they cut the hours during the days where you can early vote. They did.
But dude, you got 90 days.
I know.
How many days do you need to have to vote?
Look, any one of these things on its own isn't that big of a deal, but when you look at the whole list of shit, there's more. I'm not done. Mobile voting stations are now banned. Why? If you have a fucking ID, what difference does it make? Why can't you have mobile voting stations that traditionally?
Because there's no oversight.
Well, yes, there is oversight on those. They're proper voting stations. They're just mobile. They go to rural areas for people who can't travel. If they have to go fucking 50 miles or some shit like that, they bring these mobile RV voting stations. There is oversight on those. Why ban those if you're not trying to stop people from voting? There's more.
But you have mail-in ballots, so why does it matter if you have mobile units?
Mail now though. This one's really fucked up. No more provisional ballots can be cast if you show up at the wrong polling location. People will be instructed to go to the correct polling location. So normally,
that's how it is. That's how it is in almost every other.
It's everywhere.
That's how it is in Texas.
You can't go to the wrong station and vote. You have to go to where you're designated to vote.
In the state of Georgia and the state of California, I don't know about other states, so I'm going to profess ignorance there. If you show up in Georgia prior to this bill passing, if you showed up to the wrong polling station, by the way, a mistake I've made. I don't know about Georgia. I don't know about where you guys live. In LA, there's 8,000 fucking voting stations. It's super easy to go to the fucking wrong one. You cast a provisional ballot, and they double check that you're who you are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and it gets counted. You can't do that anymore in the state of Georgia. You've been able to do. So if you show up to the wrong polling place, you can no longer cast a provisional ballot. Again, if you have ID, if we're going on the supposition that the ID is there to stop any kind of fraud, which by the way, there is no widespread fraud proven, then what the fuck is the point of all these other rules?
Hey, I gotta stop you real quick. So I went to factcheck.org, which is actually the most moderate but still liberal.
Yeah.
Biden is wrong on early voting hours. As our fact check colleagues at the Washington Post have written, the president has repeatedly made the false claim that the Georgia law would close a polling place at 5 o'clock when working people are just getting off. The new law sets the minimum hours for early voting on weekdays as 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., whereas the old law said early voting shall be conducted during normal business hours, which means there is no change. County officials can keep early voting locations open for longer, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to tell you, in Democrat areas, in the inner city areas, they are going to choose to leave it open because they have the choice to. Their county officials are all Democrats, so they have their own choice to do that.
I'm happy I'm wrong. I'm really happy to be wrong because if I thought, by the way, I didn't get that from Biden. I don't even know he said that, but I'm happy I'm wrong. I'm happy that they didn't change.
Okay, awesome. Keep going.
Well, I mean, look, this is probably the one that we're all going to agree with. I would hope that we're all going to agree with this one. There's a couple other ones, but I'll cut to the chase. Is creating that new chair of the state election board. I mean, that's fucking dangerous the way they've done that. They've taken the Secretary of State away from the board. So now the elected state legislature has 3 of the 5 seats on the board. They've essentially politicized the what's supposed to be a nonpartisan body. They've politicized it, which this could benefit Democrats if Democrats are in power. Right now, it's gonna benefit Republicans. I mean, this is kind of a fuck you move to. I forget the Secretary of State's name, the guy who Trump threw a hissy fit over. Not finding votes for him. I think this is super dangerous. It's bad for democracy. And again, I think this could actually this could be beneficial or harmful to either party. But it's a bad move when you allow a political party to appoint people, or to appoint the majority of a board that's supposed to oversee elections. It's a bad move. And again, it's not just for Republicans. Democrats could take advantage of this if they took over the state legislature. It's fucking dangerous and stupid.
So do you think Georgia successfully, and I'll let Casey go next, do you think Georgia successfully executed the 2020 election this year?
I mean, I know that they had to have a recount 3 times, including one by hand, and nothing untoward in any remarkable way was found. So ultimately, yes. I don't know, without Trump's fucking whining on all of his platforms before he was banned from them, I don't think any of us would be questioning it.
I disagree. Sorry, Casey, go ahead, then I'll go.
No, mine is, I get what you're saying about having an election board making decisions. I get nervous when stuff like that is done. Here in Utah, we have one for just distributing alcohol within our state, which our prices are extremely high. We have all kinds of issues here in Utah because of it. But I also do believe there needs to be something like that in place that is done by an electoral process to ensure things are followed by the way the state should be ran. Because I do not want, one of the big things I'm against in this is a federal mandate over elections, and it can't be done. Each state's got to manage their own. So I see where the concern is and what you're saying, but I also am going to say I would like it to make sure that it's done by an election of some sort, that these people are part of that board to ensure a fair election is always done. Because then the people still have the power. And that's where I get what you're saying in that sense. I'm on board, but I'm not, only because I want to see it be more in the power of the people. And that's because here in Utah, we get abused by a lot because of our government. People can't separate the difference between church and state. They just can't.
I agree with you. They've taken the power away from the people. They've given the state legislature the power to put 3 out of 5 people on that election board that they choose, anyone they want. So it's we're in agreement. It's the opposite of giving the power to the people.
I get you, but part of it is this. It's the same as with the Supreme Court. There has to be some kind of deciding group partisan or not, but it's chosen by the people. And if it happened to be Democrat, let them be guilty of the fraud and the screw ups and whatever. But take away the alleged fraud in the last election, the fact that it took 3 recounts, the fact that there is voter confidence issues across the board. Take away the fact that you think that it was 100% on the up and up, and just say, if the American people are not confident in the election, what do? You have an elected governor. The term governor stands for govern your state. He is the governor of the state. So if you're going to put one person in charge, whether you like Gavin Newsom in California or not, he has been chosen by the people. And in the event of what happened in last year's election, Georgia being one of the states that had a cluster F of mess ups, the governor can now step in, make sure that he's got the right people, make sure that he has people, right people or not, right, left, who gives a shit. He's got a majority of people that can actually make shit happen. And shit wasn't happening before. And that's what this prevents. So I am in complete disagreement that wasn't a necessary change. Otherwise, it's just going to be a bunch of people butting heads again, the same way that happened last year. And unfortunately for the liberal side, they do have a Republican governor. But once you've got flushed out all the other fraud issues with the mail-ins and the this and the drop boxes, which I researched the drop boxes, it actually provided more drop boxes to rural communities, and they did a statewide maximum, which is why it was shrank in the it was in the city, which I read. It did go from like 70 or 80 down to 23, but there was a reason, because they had to spread it out amongst the state, whatever. They're allowing for more time. I don't know what else can be said. It's literally, they're doing everything to actually prevent fraud or prevent voter disconfidence, and have somebody that can make a decision and say, this goes, this doesn't. It's not like he can go, this vote doesn't count. Nope. Oh, nope. Don't like this one. He can't do that.
It's not the governor. They have the majority now. The state legislature, the elected state legislature has the right to remove people from the election board and appoint whoever they want. It's not, I think it's extremely naive to think that all of this stuff is done. This is politics, guys. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. It's politics. Politics is dirty. All of these fuckers are shady. I don't care. Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, they're all fucking shady. It's extremely naive. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. To think that all of this was done with the public interest at heart. I'm not saying none of it. I'm not saying none of it was done for that reason. If you think that none of this was done to help ensure that some people don't vote, I think you're being very naive.
I'm not saying it's a perfect bill. There is no such thing as a perfect bill, which therefore circles back to the original point that all of a sudden Woketopia that we are in this United States of America has taken this. To me, you can discuss why you do or do not like the bill, but in the end, I think there's a lot of good to it. There might be some bad. The whole water thing is a complete bullshit mockery. And Biden is riding this thing out to the core that this is the ultimate end of why Republicans are horrible. And Biden is continuously getting those 47 Pinocchios on how much bullshit he's drumming up, because guess what? Anybody can get food and water 50 yards away from anybody. But there's all these flaws in the program. And again, we are now moving this game where Atlanta small businesses, a lot of them being minorities, are now going to be missing out on a huge payday after a huge pandemic. And we are now supporting moving it to Colorado, a state with very similar voter ID laws. Meanwhile, Major League Baseball picks and chooses on a monetary level, as they just signed a massive contract with Chinese television. And China right now is currently committing crimes against humanity against anybody that is Christian in its country. And I know, Jay, that you don't agree with the Christian religion, which is fine, but I think any kind of mass either genocide or mind programming or camps would make it something that the American public wouldn't want to do business with, let alone Major League Baseball that's moving from Atlanta because of this.
Yep.
I'm just saying I'm proud of PGA for saying F you, we're staying in Georgia.
Well, where can they go? The fucking Masters, is it like they can't, like, it's not like they had a choice. What are they going to do? Pick up the golf course and move it to Colorado? Like,
no, there's golf courses all across the country,
the
man.
Masters, bro. The Masters belong in Georgia. They can't move it. Yeah.
They didn't even allow women to play there like until 20 years ago, and that's the least of their problems.
PGA could actually use a little bit of wokeness. Like, yeah, they did, or at least, yeah.
All right, let's go riding with Biden. Suni, I know he's your favorite president of all time, so I want you to start up. And can Can you name one positive? Oh no, that's how you're starting, Suni. You have a positive. What's the positive? It's time to ride with Biden, baby.
Yeah, just one. So me and my husband went to breakfast, and I was so irritated. I was reading through my timeline and stuff, reading the news, and I get to Biden regime. I call it regime. They're going to resume the wall. I'm like, for what? You already let all these MFers in here. They're here. You're not going to stop them from climbing over. As we can see, coyotes just dump kids over the thing anyway. So listen, I'm going to give him props for continuing something that should have been done. We need to secure our country, but it's redundant at this point. Like, why? You stopped it. You said it was racist. You went after somebody. You have the whole half of the U.S. thinking that borders are racist, but then you can put it up around the Capitol and let's continue building it now. So I'm going to give him props for continuing that. I hope he does the same thing with the pipeline, but he's still done. I don't have anything good to say about Joe Biden. I don't like him because he is a very racist man. He has ignorant things to say about Black people all the time, and it's annoying how he just gets away with it. And then we got people, and I wanted to say this about the whole MLB situation. The reason why it's a big racial thing is just because that's what the media is telling people. So then people take it and bring their ignorance. Well, they're doing this because of racism. No, they're not. And the dude that you voted for is completely against you. I just can't. I don't have nothing to say nice about him except for that. Thank you for securing the country halfway, because you're still going to let him in, but thanks for finishing the wall. We appreciate that.
Well,
May I?
Go, of course, Jay.
So this is a negative for me for Biden, not for restarting it, but I'm happy they stopped the wall construction when they did, but holy shit, they needed a little bit of study and a little context. So what they're actually doing, I dug deep into this. What they're actually doing, it's one part of the wall in, where the fuck is it? Cochise or Cochise County, Arizona. So what happened was, so this is the piece of the wall they're going to plug up. What happened was that when they just stopped the construction, which is really stupid. The construction of the wall that was happening in this particular county in Arizona, they built a road alongside of it. Okay, so the road got built first, and they took down the old section of the wall that was there, and they didn't have a chance to build the new section when Biden stopped construction. So this is again, a bad job by the Biden administration. They should have. Cool. You want to stop the wall construction? Fine. Maybe have a look and see what's going on before you just fucking put a halt to it. What was happening in this Cochise County, Arizona, where the local sheriff is saying that the road that was built is turned into a super highway for smugglers, both drugs and people. So the Biden administration has to go in and finish this piece of the wall because it's in worse shape now than it was before the Trump wall construction started. So I'm actually slamming Biden for this. His whole I'm sure it wasn't his decision directly, his administration, for not looking into what was actually happening when they decided to stop the construction. There's certain places, there's certain things you gotta account for. This is obviously one of them. They built a fucking highway next to an open stretch where there used to be a wall, and they tore it down. So access was easier because they stopped it, which is fucking insane. So bad Biden for shutting it down without looking at things.
Yeah, there's Joey Basements. Casey, go ahead.
The one thing I give Joe Biden credit for, and so Suni took it from today. But the other thing that I do is, and I've said this, and this is why I ask for 3 things that Joe Biden has done. I'm not asking for 1. I'm asking for 3. The first one is extending the moratorium on evictions and foreclosures. I can understand, and that's okay. There is a downside with it. I'm not saying it's perfect. You are ruining the housing market. You're causing prices to go through the roof because cheap houses don't exist anymore. However, I'm okay with that for a short period of time. All of the other stuff, no, I can't find the thing that I love what Joe Biden is doing. He's giving me great entertainment that's better than Donald Trump did. And Donald Trump was Twitter, so I could get it all day long. But now it's just all these memes I get on Facebook is what it is. But overall, I struggle with trying to find any positives that Joe Biden has done. And I ask people to tell me. And Jay, if you want to tell me, educate me, Matt.
We got to get some positives out of Jay, but I got to give a disclaimer for Jay. He's from Boston. The F word is like being an Australian and the C word. He says the F word, but to me, it comes out smooth and silky, and it's part of his dialect, so fuck it.
Yeah. Can I say something real quick? We have been allowing people to be lazy for a damn near a year. All right. COVID has been around for a year. You need to get your ass up and go back to work. They don't need to extend eviction. Like that's eliminating the middle class because you're giving a big FU to those owners. Pay me my money or get out of my property. That's how life is. That's like a utopic society. I'm gonna live here for free. And then you expect the landlord not to kick you out. And if they do kick you out because they're losing out on money, they're getting in trouble for that. He hasn't done anything worth nothing.
That's not true.
All right, before we go to that, I want to go back to Suni's comment when she talked about the media again fueling all of the issues. In this case, I know what a lot of the Dems had issues like Trump's fueling it. Technically, in my opinion, I know Jay disagrees. Trump wasn't fueling it unless you took away a soundbite out of his clips. You take little sound bites, and you're like, oh, look, he's being hateful. Oh, look, he's causing this. Oh, look, he's doing that. Whereas Biden's whole press conferences, for example, the ones that are even being deemed by liberal media as false and lies, for example, like we just talked about involving the voting in Georgia, this is inflammatory rhetoric. So I used to say blame the media first, then blame the leadership. Don't blame each other. In this case, the leadership is actually the one truly fueling it from A to Z of a speech. A to Z of a speech. Trump had his moments where it might have been poked here and there. And when you only show that, blame that on the media. This is literally Biden's whole life right now. Anything Trump did bad, except for the Space Force, which I find really, really weird, which makes me think that there's aliens. I'm just throwing that out there. Freaks me out a little bit. The fact that Biden's like, something's kind of good about this Space Force. Let's keep this around. I'm like, oh, shit, something's coming. Okay, cool. Besides that, he has 100% been the rhetoric of hate and horrific behavior to fellow Americans since he's been in office. Jay, tell us what beautiful things he's done.
Well, don't set me up like that. It's just even with Trump. I mean, my feelings about him are well documented. No one does everything wrong. I think anyone who said everything Trump did was wrong is an idiot. And no offense, I think if you said that everything Biden did is wrong, that's not right either. Like, that's impossible.
Tell me what he did good. I'm waiting.
I can't find anything.
Bullshit. You just said he reinstated DACA. That's a no-brainer. Like, Trump should have never killed DACA. It's a no-brainer.
The way he did DACA was wrong. Like, he literally is allowed. He didn't provide any way for it to function. He just said, here's a moratorium. You guys have 10 years to be in the country. Vote whatever way you want. You get to feed off of the whole country. He did not provide a plan for DACA. He just literally says, dreamers are allowed. We'll figure this out in 10 years when I am long gone. But that's not a way to deal with DACA.
He had to do that because your guy decided to fucking kill the Dreamer program, which was a terrible move. I don't know anybody who agrees with killing DACA to begin with. He had to do it. He had to put a moratorium on people getting fucking thrown out of the country who shouldn't have been thrown out of the country.
So that's not a good yet. We'll say that's a to be determined to see if it's dealt with properly. Next,
American lives matter. Okay, I'm sorry. Americans. I'm American first.
Americans. Trump made them not Americans. Trump decided to.
If you don't have a green card and you didn't go through the process, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My kids are going to benefit off of this land that my husband fights for and I work my ass off for. I'm not paying for somebody else's stuff. Like, I'm sorry, man.
That's not somebody else's stuff. They had a legal route to become citizens in this country legally, and Trump killed the law. You can't just say, oh, they're illegal. Like, Trump decided to make them illegal. Like, that's fucked up. Like,
we're not a charity case, man. Like, this is not a charity country.
Charity case. They had a legal path to citizenship. Trump took that away from them. So it's fuzzy logic. One day they're legal and the next day they're not. Trump should never have killed DACA. I don't care what the fuck Biden did. I'm happy he reinstated it so that those people are no longer illegal. They were legal one day and then Trump made them illegal. canceling DACA was maybe one of the worst things Trump did. Maybe the worst thing that Trump did. I'm happy that Biden reinstated it. That's a good thing. It's also a no-brainer.
Okay.
Anyone who came in after Trump would have done that. A Republican president probably would have reinstated DACA. It had Republican support for a long time. Reagan, basically, his plan was basically DACA. I mean,
I'm not a Republican, so I don't care which party. I'm a policy person, and if I don't like your policy,
Trump
both sides are
killed DACA. It was a really fucked up thing to do. He basically killed citizenship or the promise of citizenship to millions of people overnight with the stroke of a pen. It was fucked up.
But those people are still here because I know several, and they got extensions all while he was in office. So it's not like they were just kicking him out left and right. They were still able to stay here. I know that for a fact.
Do you I want to stop there because this is the devil is in the details. What do you think Trump's plan did to DACA?
Well, it eliminated it.
How?
It eliminated the Dreamer program. It eliminated.
So did it send everybody that was already here home immediately and say that what exactly happened?
Well, kind of the same thing of what Biden doing. I don't think they had all the details worked out about how they were going to start throwing people out of the country, but those people no longer had a path to citizenship that they did under the Dreamers program, right? So I think a lot of that was supposed to work itself out in the second term Trump presidency. I'm not sure what their plan was to kick everybody out. All I know is what DACA did for people. It gave them a path to citizenship. That was the law. Trump eliminated.
It's not a law, and it was executive order. Obama signed it. There's a difference. It wasn't a law.
Correct.
Cool. It was an executive. All right. Well, this is semantics now.
It's a huge difference.
Big difference.
The way our country is governed.
Did they have a path to citizenship under DACA?
Not really. They were just here
potentially, yes.
Potentially, maybe if you ever feel like doing it, whenever.
So here's the thing. Like
they did have a path to citizenship. Trump eliminated their path to citizenship. Biden has reinstated their path to citizenship. But you can disagree on whether they should have had it to begin with. The fact of the matter remains is those people one day had a path to citizenship. And with one executive order, they no longer did.
Jay,
that's the truth.
Hold on, let him give his other ones because honestly, this is crap.
Can I give the actual breakdown of what DACA really did? Because again, the media spin is DACA ended any opportunity for dreamers to be in the United States of America. It didn't.
Okay.
Nearly 800,000 people have been approved under the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, which we call DACA, since the program was created by executive order by then President Barack Obama in 2012. DACA gives participants a 2-year deferral, which can be renewed. What he did to it, he ended the program, which therefore ended the program, which was effective immediately because of the amount of applicants that we could no longer handle to continue to find their path to citizenship. We could not bring in any more. Now, the roughly 800,000 people who are currently protected under the program as of March 5th, 2018, their status does not change immediately. They're vulnerable to deportation only if Congress does not pass a law by March granting them protection. So at that point, he was saying he did an executive order to end the previous executive order because there was so many people in the program that our government could not handle them. And it did not just say, DACA, you're going home. It said, effective immediately, we are not accepting new applicants. That's it.
But did the previous applicants still have a path to citizenship? The answer to that question is no.
Yes.
No,
yes, if they were already in the system, they had they had 6 months for Congress to deal with. What I cannot tell you is what Congress did 6 months after that. That I do not know.
They didn't do anything.
Sure.
You can't find it because they didn't do anything.
Which means they're fine.
Yeah.
No. The law needed to be passed in order to give them. Read it again. The law needed to be. Sorry, I just ordered you to read something.
No, you're good. No, I want to read it. I want to figure this out.
Read it again.
I'm saying though, like we have our own, like we have homeless people here. We have children here that don't have moms and dads and are struggling. Why should I give a crap about somebody in another country?
They're not. They're not in another country. They're in our country.
So they're here.
Yeah.
They're here and they can keep renewing it every 2 years. So what's the big deal? They're not looking for a path. They're here sucking up all the resources.
How do you know that? Like,
because I know a lot of them, and I know that they are just here chilling.
Your personal
straight chilling.
Not defined 800.
That's fine, but to say that all these people are implying that they just want citizenship and it's not fair, that's BS, man. You know that a good portion of those people are here to mooch.
I didn't
come on.
I didn't say put words in my mouth. I didn't say any of those things.
I said imply.
I said their path to citizenship was gone when Trump signed that executive order, which is the truth. You can't. Your personal experience knowing a few dreamers and what their intentions are can't speak for the 800,000 people that Anthony just mentioned. It can't. That's
it can't, and I acknowledge that. But there are a lot of people that they know, like family. Listen, they come here, they work, they send that money back to another country. So you know what? We're losing out even more because you're not even spending your money here. Why are you here? If this is a land of opportunity, then bring your family here, do it the right way, work hard like I work hard, and don't send money elsewhere. Like, wow, you're an American, but you're sending money elsewhere to build somebody else's economy?
So you think they don't spend any money in America?
Hardly. They send a lot of it back. And they will straight tell you that.
They don't pay rent. They don't buy clothes.
No.
Gas,
so,
they don't buy bus.
Jay,
what are you guys talking about?
Let me give you my firsthand experience. I'm gonna withhold names.
Half of them don't pay taxes.
They do not pay taxes.
Come on.
Income tax is not the only tax that exists, guys. They pay taxes on fucking everything.
We know.
Well, yeah, we're all taxed to death.
Like income tax is the only tax that anybody. I dare go try.
Can you please give your next one? I really have to end. I'm sure Russo will.
Yeah, let's go. We need another positive because I think there's definitely a different way of looking at DACA. So let's go past DACA.
Executive order against workplace discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. Fucking no-brainer. Of course, workplaces should not be able to discriminate against sexual orientation or gender.
Can you name a place that's done that?
No. But why?
So then why is that a good thing if it's not even happening?
Do you know? Can you name a wait. Are you saying that no one in any workplace has ever been discriminated against because of
this? Is called virtue signaling, Jay.
No,
so
it's
virtue signaling. No, it's virtue signaling means finding a problem that makes it look like you actually give a shit towards the transgender or whatever community and creating a law that nobody gave a shit, or creating an executive order that nobody gave a shit about because it wasn't an issue in 99% of the country.
Sounds like voter fraud. If you're bringing up something, solving problems that don't exist.
That sounds like gaslighting. So I brought up a very, very valid point, which is where was this? And so did Sunni. I'm sorry, Sunni did as well. Where was this an issue to this point?
I don't know that. I'm just
it's because there wasn't.
I don't know. I'm happy those people are protected though. You should not be able to discriminate against people.
Affirmative action. I could have swore we had that, but okay.
That's not affirmative action. That's not affirmative.
We have affirmative action for those very same things.
It's a ban on discrimination. That's not affirmative action. Something totally different.
So
our country already bans discrimination.
Hey, so with this, there is already something called Equal Opportunity Employer Act.
Yeah.
That removes all discrimination for gender, politics, all of these things that already exist. Why does this bill have to exist? It doesn't. It is already there. I can't even. If I was in an interview, I can't even ask you to get an understanding of your age by, when did you graduate high school? I went to that high school. I can't even ask that question because I could be using it for discrimination reasons. Mm-hmm. You cannot tell me that this was not already in place and we are just passing another BS bill with other crap in it to try to pad someone's pocket or do something else.
How would that pad somebody's pocket?
Well, I'd have to go through the whole thing, but it makes no sense. It already existed.
I disagree. We'll agree to disagree. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. I don't think it's virtue signaling at all. I think coming out and saying something like that and passing a bill or an executive, if we want to get into semantics.
You used a perfect word. I'm going to say this right now. You said coming out. What that bill reminds me of is somebody that's already dating a guy. Everybody knows that they're dating a guy, knows that they're gay, and nobody cares. They're like, I love Joe and Steve together. They're amazing. I think they're a great couple. And then he makes a post online, guys, it's time for me to come out of the closet.
Yeah.
Everybody already knew, and it's not an issue. The only people that gave a shit are people that in their mind thinks that we live in this completely hateful country, and it's not that way. Anyways, let's do at least one more, and then we'll wrap up. Riding with Biden.
Real quick, Anthony just came out of the closet. Is it? Did everybody hear that?
No. Let's be very clear. That did not happen.
I have negatives for Biden too, plenty of them. But I'm really happy they canceled the Keystone Pipeline. That wasn't American oil. That oil wasn't being used in America. Anyone who thinks that canceling the Keystone Pipeline caused gas prices to go up doesn't understand how the global oil market works. It was already polluting lands. There's some people, I don't know. I don't have nearly, I'm not a lawyer. Supposedly it broke some treaties with some indigenous people where they laid this thing down. I don't know whether that's true or not. I know that there were lots and lots and lots of protests about it. I'm happy. Fuck Keystone. Fuck fossil fuels. It's a ridiculous thing. I'm really happy he canceled the Keystone Pipeline.
See,
so you don't care about Americans and their jobs either. You don't care about all the people at inconvenience.
Well, if they had not approved it, those jobs wouldn't have existed to begin with.
So how do you know that it was no good?
Wait, Jay.
What?
Yeah.
Where do you work?
I work in my own company.
Okay, so if somebody signs signs an invoice, you send an invoice and they sign it. If they didn't approve your work, you don't get a job. So if they sign it, you get to do the job, correct?
I think you're oversimplifying the issue. Does the job that I do infringe on indigenous people's lands and pollute things?
Indigenous
it didn't.
people.
I'll let I want Suni to talk, but I'm going to explain what the key. It didn't. I'll explain
Come
why.
on, bro.
It was an agreement made. Suni, what do you got to say? Because I got a whole bunch on the Keystone.
I just think conversation like the indigenous people, like, bro, Americans are dying day by day by day over stupid things. This country is going down the drain day by day by day. I don't give a crap about indigenous land. It is our land.
It's their land. It's not our land. It's their land.
It's our land. Who the fuck do the Indians think they are to say you can't come here? This is mine. You know what?
Wow.
You know what? Where's my land? Since I got to give a crap about some damn Indians, I could play that game.
Wow.
Where's my land? Wasn't this country built in the backs of blacks? Where's my land?
And Chinese and Irish.
Where's my land? See what you do? You see what you do? Well, the indigenous land matters. But I'm speaking real stuff as we built this country because we were free labor. And you know what you say? Well, so were Asians. I say the same thing, but I'm telling you the flip side of this. You want people to give a damn about indigenous lands, and you can't even acknowledge the fact that blacks have built this country.
What do you
Where
mean?
is our land? You just did it. So did Asians. So did everybody else. That was a complete disregard.
No, it wasn't. No, don't put words in my mouth.
Am I in another world right now?
I wasn't disregarding the ridiculous amount of free labor that African Americans, particularly slaves, were a part of in building this country. To say that in the indigenous people's lands,
I don't give a shit about them, bro. I don't care. I don't care. It's real. Most Americans don't give a crap about that stuff because it doesn't matter.
But
this is not one generation ago. This is hundreds of years ago, which is why a lot of times we talk about moving past slavery, moving towards the current. I get 1,000,000% where Suni is coming from because it's like I give a damn about everybody that hold on, Jay. I give a damn about everybody that built this country. But as time has gone on, if you really want to compare, black people didn't have a choice. They literally were forced.
What are we talking about here?
Hold on. Indigenous people did not have a choice. Indigenous people did not have a choice until we started becoming more civilized as a country, which took a long effing time. And it's unfortunate what happened to the indigenous people, but they started making deals. They got way more deals than black people did. And if you want to know the actual information on the Keystone Pipeline, because I looked it up when Trump opened it back up, I'm big into Native American communities. My mom it practices the being a shaman.
Native American, by the way.
Got part Native American. I get it. I get what happened to them as a people. But the Keystone Pipeline was because they. Okay, I'm gonna start at the beginning of Trump's presidency. I looked into it then. He started saying, I'm going to reopen the Keystone Pipeline. It can provide all these different jobs and money and taxes, not just fuel to different countries or oil to different countries. So what he did was he negotiated he looked to negotiate. He didn't have to. Why? The bill was already done. They were standing on a land that no longer belonged to them. It had been sold off. The actual, you talked about the pollution. There is zero pollution from the Keystone Pipeline. There's also millions of other, I don't want to be exaggerated. There are hundreds of other pipelines doing the exact same thing as the Keystone Pipeline. This one happens to be larger, more powerful, and create more money, create more jobs. What happened was the government paid the indigenous people from that region for the Keystone Pipeline area and said, would you take this deal? The Native Americans said, no, we'll take this deal. And it was way higher. And the government goes, fine, we'll give it to you. Didn't expect them to give it to them. So then they fought and said, we didn't sign this contract. We didn't sign it, whatever. It was such a phenomenal amount of money going to that Native American community that I am sorry, they were the greedy ones in it. So that's why Trump was able to say, executive order, we're building the pipeline, get the hell out of the way. Biden, again, is virtue signaling and taking away American jobs by saying, oh, this is unfair to people, when in all reality, it was a deal made. And there was a financial gain made to that community that just decided when they wanted to be upset by it.
Thank you. And by the way, we still don't got land. You giving all this money to indigenous Native American people in the inner city is shit. I don't want to hear about no goddamn indigenous land because it don't matter.
I'm shocked that we're trying to relitigate whether indigenous people should have the land.
I'm shocked that black people aren't in this conversation and you're a total liberal. I'm shocked.
But that's not what we're talking about right now.
We are though. Indigenous land. This is, you know what? This is my indigenous land. Where's my money?
But that's not
you
how
built. You built pipelines all through my stuff. Where's my money?
You're being facetious.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. You're not being serious. No, but
I really am.
What Suni is saying is, where does it stop?
What do you mean?
Where like if this
litigate the treaties that we made with the indigenous people, like what the am I taking fucking crazy pills here?
You don't have to renegotiate them because they've been done. That's what Suni's saying. It was never done for black people still to this day. And we're not a show that talks about reparations because we don't believe in that. But the indigenous people have their land and they actually made a deal here. They signed papers. They said, I will take this deal. And then they rescinded it, or they tried to rescind it. And now Biden is just playing that game, which is affecting the jobs, which I'm sure there's a ton of black people and of white people and et cetera races that work on this pipeline. So those 40,000, 30,000 jobs matter. The jobs that it would have created in other places throughout the country for that matter.
I just can't get past the idea that we don't give a fuck about the indigenous people anymore. I don't know when that started. And why we're just bringing other races in.
Because it matters if we want to play this game. If we're going to care so much about them and they got pieces of legislation, then you need to extend that to everybody that was quote unquote, your word, disproportionately affected. Where is the rest of the country's money?
Metaphors or something.
I'm not using metaphors. I'm using real life. Maybe you ain't spent no time in the inner city. Maybe you ain't seeing how they live. How the shitty school. Okay, so then those places are still the same, and you want me to give a crap about indigenous land? I don't give a fuck. I don't care if they blast through it with everything they got.
When we get to the part of the show where we talk about the inner city, then we can bring this shit up. We're talking about
I'm bringing it up now because it matters. It's relevant.
Of course it matters and it's relevant. So can you guys just bring up a topic and then I can just say anything I want that matters? Like, is that how this works now? Like, we can talk about Biden.
You can play games, but I'm extremely intelligent, my guy.
I'm not saying you're not.
I don't pop around and just bring up erroneous things that don't matter in a conversation. I don't do that.
So, can I make a point? Every time we moved on from a topic,
I'm just
every time we moved on from a topic because of a disagreement, do you guys realize they were all executive orders?
Yeah, it's interesting. Interesting.
Do you understand why that's important?
Yeah, I mean, it's all the way around. Yeah.
It keeps a divide.
Yeah.
Because every executive order can be undone by the next president. And so it just keeps getting done.
Yeah.
And it just keeps these arguments going.
Yeah. What do we do?
And so what do? We have to make sure that we actually elect a proper people to do the proper things. Now, Jay, I do disagree with you on Keystone Pipeline. I do think that's very beneficial. However, when the way we are going about things as a country, everything is done by an executive order. Everything. And so by us doing that, it always gets undone. And it keeps going through, and we fight and we argue, and we can never come to an understanding or compromise. If we actually go through the processes that are in our country to go through Congress, the House and Senate, we would not have these problems. You would have to go through House and Senate to change those bills again.
Yep.
You can't just sign with a lick of a pen. We're arguing over executive orders. This is why I'm so strongly against them. They need to go.
I'll agree that executive orders need to go, or at least be reined in tremendously.
Honestly, I'm just going to be real. I don't care what indigenous people are. I don't care if they're not Native American. I don't care if they're Irish. I don't care. There are bigger and better things to worry about as a whole.
Like jobs,
I will be the same way
after a pandemic.
Yes, there's more important things to be worried about. I brought up the Black community because everybody likes to use the Black community. You like to use the story, you like to use the Black plight, but when it comes talking about action, I'm done with that. So if we're going to talk about, I'm talking about period. I'm talking about the people that carry I've had conversations with people that carry the same ideals as you. Oh, what do you mean indigenous people? How can you ever say that? How long has the Black community been hearing that? I'm speaking this from experience, and I'm telling you how I look at this type of conversation. We're talking about indigenous land when there are bigger things happening in this country.
I mean,
so if we're going to keep using civil rights movement, and we're going to keep talking Jim Crow, we're going to keep doing all these things, and I'm speaking to liberals, then you better start producing some results, because you keep using the Black plight and giving us nothing.
I'm having a real hard time.
That's fine.
Squaring all of this. So on the one hand, you don't believe there's any systemic racism in America. On the other hand,
when did you ever hear me say that?
People put you on a tirade about why are we worried about indigenous people when African Americans in the inner cities have problems. I'm having a hard time squaring those two viewpoints with you.
First of all, there are absolutely systems set in place. I've never said there weren't. Do we have a choice in the matter? Do we have a choice in the matter? Yes, we do. Is it systemic racism? To a certain extent, when it comes to the state, I do believe that it's targeted towards Black people. But racism means it affects Black people across the board. It does not. Because we don't all suffer the same fate. Tiffany did a show with me yesterday. We talked about this exact same thing. You know why those kids in those cities don't have those opportunities? Because every single time, so we need help. I'm the one that's talking about what's going on there. And the liberals are talking about racism. Look at what's happening in the inner city. Every time you need our vote, you want to use the Black plight. When you want to push a piece of legislation through, you want to use the Black plight, but you don't want to do anything. I said, stop using Black people. And that's a valid argument. I don't believe that systemic racism is this huge thing. There are systems in place, yes, but we have a choice in the matter. Everybody doesn't have that same opportunity. I acknowledge that, which is why something needs to be done about it. But nothing is ever done about it. Nothing is ever done. This will be an argument 30 years from now.
Probably.
Because nobody gives a they don't care. So I don't care about indigenous land. That's where I'm coming from. If you can't fix an issue that you started and you created, and we've been waiting for you to fix it, then don't talk to me about indigenous land. I don't care.
I just think they're two separate issues.
I don't.
I understand why you're relating them. It makes sense to me like that you're relating the two experiences. I just don't think in my opinion, I'm not disrespecting your opinion. In my opinion, it's not helpful to go, I don't care about indigenous people. You know what I mean? Like that. I don't know. That's not that. I don't find that helpful personally, but do you, I'm not disrespecting your opinion, but I don't find that helpful at all.
I don't find talking about it helpful to anybody.
Okay.
What is acknowledging? What has it helped?
I mean, then what are we even talking? I mean, like reduction ad infinitum.
Well, we were trying to figure out the positives, and that's why we're talking about it. It's literally to say what the positives are, why we don't feel that they're positives, why you do feel that they're positives. I completely believe as though that last bit of the argument was well done. I mean, we both. You saw Suni's point of why she doesn't give a shit, and the very valid reasons. I gave my point on the issues behind the non-issue. And you said, and you gave why you found it positive in the first place. Some people can choose to hold on to whatever they want. And Casey made us all realize that this is all a shit show from executive orders, plain and simple.
Yeah.
So am I right? Let's do something here, and let's end the riding with Biden with a lighter note, which it's not lighter because I think it actually is absolutely terrifying. And let's circle back and talk about press secretaries. So what is, Jay, how do you feel about that amazing press secretary, the Psaki it to me, Jen Psaki?
I mean, she's not great. I mean, I just think, I mean, honestly, I've never cared that much about any press secretary. I mean, you could probably count on one hand the amount of good press secretaries there's been in the last like 40 years. They're all kind of shit. I forget, I can't remember her name. What was Trump's last press secretary? She was
I can never forget her name.
Haley
McNamee.
She was good. There was two buffoons there before her. Like, I don't know. Like, it's fun to talk about. I don't think it matters very much. Like, they're mostly awful. They're usually generally mostly awful. I mean, she's not great. I probably don't hate her as much as you guys do. I know everyone cares about the circle back. It's just a verbal tick she has, like whatever. That part doesn't bother me. I'd rather her answer more questions. Like, it bothers me more that she's vague than her saying circle back. You know what I mean? The what she's not giving us any meat. I don't care what the phrase is. You know what I mean?
I don't think vague encompasses the way that she handles her press conferences.
Sure.
She has zero information.
Sure. I don't disagree. She has zero's going a little too far. She doesn't have much. She doesn't
7% on a warm day in DC.
They were 7.
Sure. Seven's a good number. Yeah. No, she's not great, but I mean, again, not very many of them have been. You know, my boy Spicy, he wasn't so hot either. There's been a lot of really shit press secretaries. I just think she's another in a long line of shit press secretaries. We're lucky when we get a good one. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And here's my issue is how my favorite page, Occupy Democrats, loves to slam Kayleigh McEnany. Here's the deal. You could dislike Trump. I don't give a baker's F. But to think that Kayleigh McEnany is in any way less than Psaki it to me.
She was good at her.
Go ahead, Jay.
She was really good at her job, McEnany. She was really good at her job.
In a very difficult, she faced a firestorm. So what I love to do, as you might see, Jay, is I love to pick and have fun on Occupy Democrats. So they did a huge post today, a video, which is just, I think they're running out of positive stuff about the current administration. So what they do is they're just reaching a divide. So they did a whole video where they showed like Kayleigh going in between questions, being like, well, in all reality, and like showing her struggle over words, which happens so infrequently, and then showing how kind Psaki is to. I firmly believe that our press in this country is very important to the nature of this, whatever. And it's like, and they were just going so much better to have somebody with class. Anyways, I love to poke. Sometimes when I poke, I show the utter and complete hate from this side. And this is the side that there was one comment in there that hopefully I'll get to real quick that literally talked about, I just love an administration that doesn't bully, when he literally just used a bully tactic right before that. So really quick, because I know Suni hates it when I do my Occupy Democrat stuff. So I just said I have to circle back to the ignorance of this post. It's circle back, obviously. It's clear even this page is grasping at straws to talk crap now because it's becoming ever present that this administration is a shit show, which I spelled shish on purpose to be kind. So I was called a Q nut. Please explain the ignorance. I'll wait. And I didn't even see Mel. Mel did something later where I did explain it. Come here and complain. Just look somewhere else. So I said I call out hate and ignorance. And at this point, I was already getting really mean comments. I'm not even sure what the F you're trying to say. Sentence structure. I left out a comma, which I fixed. He's a Trumper. They don't know anything about sentence structure. Okay. So I said you're doing a bang-up job proving my point how hateful you are. Mel, I actually had a little bit of a discussion with back and forth. And then somebody just said you. I don't even know what that means. It's like, you Son of a bitch. There's a huge difference between spouting propaganda and answering questions. Watch news in countries like Russia or North Korea. They clearly don't understand how bad our press has become. I was told to shut the F up. It's becoming ever present that Trump trollers are still crying like overgrown toddlers. I don't think I was crying. I was just pointing out the non-validity of the post. You mean the last admin with 500,000 dead, 20 million job losses? I don't think they understand anything about how the pandemic worked and the fact that the shutdown was mostly because Democrats forced it. And Fauci, let's see. Cannot blame one person. Oh, thanks for somebody sticking up for me. There was the other one. I couldn't find the other one. The other one was super good. The guy literally said, these stupid Trumpers come in the page and they don't know what to do. And then the next thing literally said, I just love that we have an administration that doesn't bully people anymore. As he just bullied.
I mean, you're arguing with idiots. I don't know what the point of that is. And
this is the silent, not majority. I'm sorry. This is the vocal equal to majority. This is the vocal part of our country. And we wonder why we have so much hate. Biden sucks, whatever. Trump could have sucked. If you think that, great. It has to do with people like that are causing the hate in this damn country. And literally this is spawning from the Riding with Biden show and talking about them finding a way to talk about how Psaki is a better press secretary than Kayleigh. And it's literally, I can't, as I would say on my show, blunt force logic that hasn't really started yet. It's fucking stupid.
But
like
there's equal amounts of stupidity. If you go to a right-wing page that's equal to by Democrats, there is the same amount of stupidity.
We know that.
Do me a favor.
As much.
In this.
In next one you find, Jay, tag me in it.
Exactly. They're not allowed to be up. They're not allowed to be up, Jay. That's the difference.
I have a point there. Fine. They're gone now.
They're gone. You're telling me that page can be up. That page can be up. And walk away is gone. It can't be around the walk away movement. I think that's mind-boggling, which is my final point, which Jay, Suni, you're going to love this. This is before you came in back. Jay got a warning before he posted something.
Yeah.
Saying this might be deemed as bullying. You might want to change it. Whereas we know that when Suni says something, she'll literally be like, I'm Suni and I'm a black conservative. And canceled. God. Wiped off the face of the universe. Jay got a gentle warning from Facebook saying.
Man, they gave you a warning?
Gave him a warning.
What they warned me about, I couldn't even figure out why they thought it was bullying. Like, I wasn't really saying anything that bad. Like, I said stuff that was way worse in the same thread that they didn't warn me about at all. And I don't remember exactly what I said, but the thing I was trying to post was way more innocuous than the shit they let me get away with. So it just didn't make any sense. Like,
I've never gotten a warning.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So did they tell you to delete it? Like, it gave you a chance to delete it or something?
They let me edit it, and then I was able to post it. But
wow.
Again, it was so innocuous. Like, I didn't even really know what to edit because I
don't know what to fix.
I was trying to figure out what I was saying that was bullying, and I honestly couldn't. Again, I was looking at previous comments that I made that were way worse than what
somebody reported you. That's all.
And they got, maybe it was cumulative. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I moved some words around. They let me do it.
Excuse me, sir. I'm going to need you to gently change this post. Whereas this post, by the way, if you can see what this says, it says and it was on that same thing. My qualifications, Donald found me on the other side of a glory hole. I reported this.
Wow.
And it was, Facebook deemed it not considered hate speech or harassment.
It doesn't make any sense. It never has, and it probably never will.
On the next episode, I do want to talk. We're going to have Carl on the next episode. Carl Covington. I want to talk about the Clarence Thomas talking about the censorship bill. I don't know enough about it to speak on it just yet, but I think there's going to be some changes which will force conservatives to have a voice again, which is why the Supreme Court was such a big deal. So we'll see what happens on that. I'm going to learn more about that. Aside from that, 60 Minutes, we all agree at the exact same way. 60 Minutes screwed up hugely in muffling DeSantis's press conference with them, or not press conference, but show where he outlined exactly why what they were saying was bullshit about the 100,000 to his campaign. Publix provided the best way for the vaccine to get to people, and it was agreed upon by Democratic governance in the state and other elected officials. So that was just shows why we don't trust the media, Jay. That's why.
The good news on the 60 Minutes thing is it is getting slammed fairly universally. maybe not universally, but much more than other things in this realm. Like there's been plenty of backlash from both sides in the 60 Minutes interview, which I'm happy to see. Like people, for whatever reason, that one struck a note with lots and lots and lots of other media organizations. Even the New York Times slammed, like a lot of different organizations slammed it. So that's a good. It's weirdly a good thing what happened with 60 Minutes with the way people came out en masse against it.
Yep. All right, that's all I got. We're going to have everybody do their final words. I'm going to go real quick. First off, just some housekeeping. I'm going to put it again in the box for all of you guys that watched the last episode that wants to do something a little bit weirder than you might be used to, a little bit woo-woo. I know that sounds weird for a conservative, but you'd be surprised how many woo-woo conservatives are out there. I just put it in the box. It's the Facebook group to join Mama Shaman, a.k.a. Mama Russo, my mom's drum circle, this Sunday night at 7 Central Time. So it's now in the box. You can that's the wrong one. You can find that right there. Just go ahead and click on it. I will be on the Be the Change page as well. And I'm going to go ahead and put this up for your boy, KLK GoFundMe. So there it is right there. If you want to check out Cash's GoFundMe that I just set up, there it is right there. And yes, prayers for Nova. She's got her doctor's appointment, which is Cash's daughter. She's got the doctor's appointment regarding her head and to see if everything is functioning. So again, if anybody wants to join, it is free, it is fun, and it's different. It's an hour of like meditation and some woo-woo weird shit. And the Capital Doobie Smoker will be there as well. He's pretty excited about it. With that said, Jay, I love you. I love having you on this show. I think you provide a sound voice. I know some people might have been offended by your F-bombs, but that is my favorite word. And you know, it's 8 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock Central Time that we started. So we're allowed to be a little bit different and we're allowed to do things. With that said, I thought it was a great show. I love the conversation. Suni, go for it.
I can't wait for Jay to come back. You're like, look, iron sharpens iron. You know, I was listening to you talk and I'm like, man, I don't know. That's why I came. I'm passionate about the Black community. So as soon as I hear somebody talk about another community and I know of a community that's been ignored forever, I'm just like, nah, I'm not interested in those conversations, but I hope you come back when we have Carl on. That I'm excited for.
I'll probably skip that one, but I'm passionate about this stuff too, and I'm passionate about the stuff we're passionate about. So yeah. I appreciate your passion, and I look forward to continuing that conversation with you, learning things for myself, and then hopefully changing your mind about some things also.
Gotcha.
Casey, go ahead.
No, man, Jay, I was so excited to have you on tonight. I was excited to actually get back with you, even though we don't agree on all things. But I love you, man. I love that you're having you back on here. But overall, everybody, you're probably sick of hearing me by now. 2022 is going to come real quick. We got to vote. You got to do the right thing. 2022 is where we're going to change things.
Vote Jay's people out. Jay, final words. What do you got?
I wanted to give some positive Republican news that I pulled up, something that I was really happy about.
Uh-oh.
So, kudos to Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson this week for vetoing an anti-transgender healthcare bill that would have prohibited physicians from providing any gender-affirming procedures if the person is under 18. He said the bill was so this is a really interesting cross-section of conservative values and liberal values, which is what I actually like. No, seriously. Stay with me for a second. This is a Republican governor who
I already know the bill. Go ahead.
Yeah, I like this. I like the cross-section between conservative values and liberal values here. This is a smart thing that he did. He basically said it was government overreach and it's something that's sort of a family decision. So I really like that angle of stopping it. He said it's something that physicians and parents have to deal with together, and he doesn't want the government to step into that. So regardless of how you feel about trans people or where that movement is or how woke people are about it, I really like the way he tackled that problem, and he came at it from the government overreach perspective, which is the correct way to come at that problem. We shouldn't be legislating shit like that.
What was the name of the bill again on that one?
I don't know. I forget.
So if anybody looks it up, I read through the whole bill. I think the wording on it was just fine. Yeah. To be honest, it was literally just saying, if you are a doctor, in my opinion, if you're a doctor that doesn't feel comfortable or does not believe in does not believe that transgender, does not believe in, what's the best way to say it? If you don't want to perform hormone treatments on somebody that's transgender, you don't have to. That can go to a specialist. But life-saving care or any kind of emergency, you have to treat everybody equally. I actually did not have a problem with the bill. Robert, I know, got really mad at me. I read through it and I was like, this isn't my big issue. Now, with like what you said, there could have been some flaws to the bill, just like every bill does have. And I said, Robert, I give you more credit. Go for it if you don't believe in this bill. But based on my reading and my interpretation, I didn't have a big issue with it. It sounds like the Republican governance of the state took care of it. So great. I did not see a glaring problem with that bill.
FYI, it doesn't matter. They got 2/3 of the vote and it still passed, and he can't veto it anymore.
Okay, well, there it is. So the last thing I will say, somebody made a comment. I don't know how we didn't talk about it. I'm going to do something fun tomorrow during the middle of the day, and I will talk about Hunter Biden smoking Parmesan cheese. That is the president's son. That is the sitting president's son saying I was on my hands. I had this conversation with Kelly, and this is how I'm going to wrap up. She's like, I mean, he's just, if you did drugs, it's nice that he admitted. I go, cool. Then say I had a crack problem and I've got, I'm working on it. You don't on national television for the world to say that you were on your hands and knees looking for crack in the carpet and saying you were smoking Parmesan cheese with your eyes wired open.
Maybe leave that detail out.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Truth Will Set You Free. Thank you guys for joining us. Have a fantastic rest of your evening.